Ladies and gentlemen, there are mysteries in the journey of those who are chosen. Many admire their strength, their wisdom, and their purpose, but few understand the battles they face in secret. One of the greatest struggles that chosen ones endure yet rarely speak about is the battle with lust. It is a war waged not in the open, but in the chambers of the soul, where the enemy seeks to corrupt, distract, and ultimately derail destiny. You see, being chosen does not mean being exempt from struggle. In fact, it often means the struggle is more intense. The higher the calling, the greater the temptation. The deeper the purpose, the stronger the attacks. And while many assume that those set apart for divine assignments have overcome every weakness, the truth is, some of the fiercest battles take place behind closed doors, in the unseen places, where the heart wrestles with desires that threaten to pull it away from its divine path. Tonight, I want to expose a hidden battle. I want to reveal why chosen ones secretly struggle with lust and why this battle is more than just about morality. It is about destiny. Because if the enemy can distract you with desire, he can delay your purpose. If he can consume you with passion, he can cloud your vision. And if he can bind you with secret sin, he can limit your influence. So let us go deeper. Let us unveil the 5 reasons why those who are chosen wrestle with this silent adversary. The burden of purpose attracts the weight of temptation. The moment a person is chosen for a divine assignment, the weight of purpose begins to rest upon their shoulders. Purpose is not light, it is heavy. It demands discipline, sacrifice, and obedience. The greater the assignment, the greater the pressure. But here is the reality. Where there is great pressure, there is also a great temptation to escape that pressure. Lust, in its many forms, becomes an enticing way to momentarily numb the weight of responsibility. Many chosen ones do not struggle with lust because they lack faith, but because they carry burdens so great that they seek comfort in places they should not. Temptation is always strategic. It does not present itself at moments of strength, but at moments of exhaustion. It does not come when the mind is sharp, but when the soul is weary. The enemy understands that when a chosen one is tired, they are more likely to make emotional decisions instead of spiritual ones. This is why some of the greatest spiritual leaders in history fell, not because they were weak, but because they were carrying so much weight that they sought relief in the wrong places. And the enemy was waiting, offering a counterfeit comfort wrapped in the disguise of lust. One of the dangers of this struggle is that the chosen often do not recognize that their battle with lust is connected to the burden of their calling. They assume that their desires are random, but nothing about their lives is random. Every battle is targeted. Every struggle is calculated. The adversary does not waste time fighting those who have no purpose. He fights those who are a threat. And if he can make the chosen ones seek comfort in lust, he can gradually pull them away from their mission. The weight of purpose often makes isolation necessary. There are seasons where God will separate the chosen from the crowd so they can hear his voice. But isolation, if not managed with wisdom, can become dangerous. When the mind is unguarded and the heart is heavy, loneliness can open the door to temptation. Many have fallen into secret struggles because they did not recognize that the enemy uses moments of isolation to introduce distractions. What begins as a harmless indulgence can quickly grow into a bondage that suffocates purpose. This is why chosen ones must learn how to find rest in God, not in temporary pleasure. The answer to the burden of purpose is not escape, it is renewal. Renewal does not come from feeding the flesh, it comes from feeding the spirit. The more one runs to God for strength, the less power temptation has. The more one understands that lust is an illusion of relief, the more they resist the urge to indulge in what cannot truly satisfy. The key is to see temptation for what it really is, a trap designed to weaken the warrior before they reach the battlefield. If the chosen are to rise, they must recognize that their struggle is not just about their own desires, it is about their destiny. And when purpose is understood at a deep level, temptation loses its grip. The weight of calling may be great, but the grace of God is greater. The pressure may be strong, but the power of the Spirit is stronger. The chosen do not escape their struggles by giving in. They overcome by standing firm. The anointing draws opposition, and lust is a weapon of warfare. Wherever there is anointing, there is opposition. The presence of divine favor does not eliminate attacks, it invites them. The enemy does not war against the ordinary, he wars against the extraordinary. Those who are chosen for great assignments will always find themselves facing temptations that seem tailored to their weaknesses. And one of the most effective weapons of spiritual warfare is lust. Because it attacks both the body and the mind, creating a cycle of guilt, shame, and secrecy. Lust is not just a sin, it is a strategy. It is a carefully designed trap meant to cripple the effectiveness of the chosen. Why? Because the enemy understands that anointed individuals are dangerous when they are pure. Purity and power go hand in hand. The clearer the vessel, the greater the flow of divine authority. But when lust takes root, it contaminates. It creates a mixture. It causes the chosen to feel unworthy of their calling, making them hesitant, double-minded, and spiritually weak. Many fail to realize that their struggle with lust is not random. It is an attack on their anointing. If the enemy can bind a chosen one with secret struggles, he can silence their boldness. He can introduce condemnation so they no longer feel qualified to walk in their assignment. And once guilt sets in, the chosen one begins to hide. They withdraw, they shrink back. And in that state, they are no longer a threat to the kingdom of darkness. This is why lust is so dangerous. It is not just about pleasure, it is about power. Every time a chosen one yields to temptation, they are giving away authority. They are surrendering ground. They are weakening their position in spiritual warfare. The greatest downfall of some of history's most powerful men was not physical battles, but battles of the flesh. It was not swords that defeated them, it was secret sins that drained their strength over time. The good news is that what is revealed can be healed. The chosen must understand that they are not alone in their struggle, nor are they beyond redemption. The enemy wants them to remain in isolation, but the key to victory is exposure. When lust is no longer hidden, it loses its grip. When it is brought into the light, its power is broken. If the chosen are to fulfill their destiny, they must take their struggle seriously. They must recognize that every temptation is a test. Every battle is an opportunity to prove their faithfulness. The anointing they carry is precious. It cannot be wasted. The power they have been given is holy. It cannot be compromised. The time has come for chosen ones to rise, not as victims of temptation, but as warriors who refuse to let the enemy use lust as a weapon against their purpose. Loneliness in the call creates a hunger for intimacy. The path of the chosen is often a lonely one. When God sets a person apart for a special assignment, He also separates them from many distractions, relationships, and even familiar comforts. This separation is not punishment, it is preparation. However, loneliness, if not handled with wisdom, can become a dangerous doorway for temptation. Many chosen ones secretly struggle with lust because they mistake their hunger for intimacy as a need for physical satisfaction rather than spiritual connection. One of the greatest misunderstandings about intimacy is that it is only about the body. True intimacy is about the soul. It is about being known, understood, and connected at the deepest level. Many chosen ones are deeply spiritual, but they are also deeply human. They desire connection, love, and companionship. But when they find themselves in prolonged seasons of isolation, the enemy offers them a counterfeit lust. He whispers that temporary pleasure can fill the void of loneliness, but in reality, it only deepens it. The enemy understands that the chosen ones crave intimacy, so he manipulates that need. He suggests that a secret indulgence can relieve the emotional ache of solitude. But here is the truth. Lust never satisfies. It only amplifies the longing. It creates a cycle of guilt and regret that pushes the chosen one further into isolation. What starts as a moment of weakness becomes a repeated habit, and soon the chosen one begins to feel unworthy of their divine assignment. Many great men and women of God have fallen into this trap. They loved God, but they also longed for companionship, and in the absence of healthy relationships, they turned to unhealthy substitutes. Some fell into secret addictions. Others engaged in relationships that pulled them away from their calling. And many suffered in silence, believing that no one else would understand their struggle. The truth is, this battle is not new. The enemy has been using loneliness as a weapon for generations. The only true remedy for loneliness is intimacy with God. The chosen must learn that their deepest need is not physical, it is spiritual. When they cultivate a deep personal relationship with God, they begin to experience a fulfillment that lust can never provide. The more they abide in His presence, the less power temptation has. The more they seek Him, the less they seek counterfeit comforts. Chosen ones must also surround themselves with godly community. Isolation is dangerous when it is not intentional. A person can be set apart without being completely alone. The enemy loves secrecy because it keeps people trapped in cycles of guilt. But accountability, mentorship, and wise friendships create an atmosphere where struggles can be overcome. No one is meant to fight alone. And when the chosen understand this, they will begin to walk in the freedom they were meant to have. The enemy attacks what he fears, and he fears the chosen. The greatest evidence that someone is chosen is not just in their success, it is in their struggles. The enemy does not waste time attacking people who have no significance in the kingdom. He reserves his fiercest battles for those who carry divine assignments. And among all the weapons he uses, lust remains one of his most effective tools. Why? Because it has the power to corrupt, delay, and ultimately destroy the effectiveness of those who are called. Many chosen ones do not realize that their struggle with lust is not just about them, it is about the enemy's fear of their potential. If the adversary can entangle them in cycles of sin, he can keep them from fully walking in their destiny. He knows that a chosen one who is completely surrendered to God is dangerous. He knows that when they are free, they will set others free. So he wages war in the area of their desires, hoping to keep them bound before they ever reach their full potential. This is why so many powerful individuals throughout history have fallen in the area of lust. The enemy does not fight fairly. He studies weaknesses. He watches patterns. He waits for the right moment and then he attacks. He knows that the chosen ones are destined to break chains, so he tries to bind them in secret struggles. He knows they are called to bring light, so he tempts them with darkness. His goal is not just to make them fall. His goal is to make them feel unworthy to rise again. But here is the truth. The enemy only fights what he fears. If you are in a battle, it is because you are a threat. If you are facing temptation, it is because there is something in you that terrifies the kingdom of darkness. The struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of greatness. The enemy is not attacking you because of where you are. He is attacking you because of where you are going. Unresolved past wounds leave open doors to lust. Lust is rarely just about desire. It is often about wounds that have not been healed. Many chosen ones struggle with temptation because they have unresolved pain from their past. Whether it is rejection, abandonment, childhood trauma, or past mistakes, these wounds create openings that the enemy uses to introduce temptation. And until those wounds are addressed, the struggle will continue. One of the greatest deceptions of the enemy is convincing people that their lustful desires are just random urges. But in reality, many struggles with lust are deeply connected to emotional pain. Some chase after relationships because they were abandoned. Others turn to secret addictions because they were rejected. Some seek out pleasure because they have never known true love. Lust becomes a false solution to a real problem, a temporary fix for a deep emotional wound. The danger of this cycle is that it never truly satisfies. Temporary pleasure can never heal permanent pain. Lust may offer a momentary escape, but once the moment is over, the wound remains, and often it becomes even deeper. The enemy knows this, which is why he continues to present lust as an option for comfort. He does not want the chosen to be healed, because healed people are powerful. He wants them to remain broken, caught in a cycle of temporary pleasure and long-term regret. But God desires healing. He does not just want his chosen ones to overcome lust. He wants them to be whole. And true healing begins when past wounds are confronted. This means being honest about past hurts. It means acknowledging emotional pain instead of suppressing it. It means allowing God to heal the areas that have been hidden for years. Because once healing takes place, the grip of lust begins to lose its power. Chosen ones must understand that deliverance is not just about resisting temptation. It is about closing doors. The enemy cannot enter where he has no access. And many times, lust gains access through unresolved wounds. This is why deep self-examination is necessary. It is why seeking wise counsel is important. It is why inner healing must be a priority, because once those wounds are closed, the enemy loses his ability to manipulate them. When the chosen recognize that their struggle is connected to deeper issues, they can begin to address the root instead of just the symptoms. They can break free from cycles that have existed for years. They can walk in true purity, not just by resisting temptation, but by being healed from the pain that made temptation so appealing in the first place. And when this happens, they will no longer live as victims of their past, but as victors in their calling. The struggle is a sign of greatness, but it must be overcome. Every battle a chosen one faces is a sign of their significance. The greater the calling, the greater the warfare. And lust, though it may seem like just a personal struggle, is actually an attack on future impact. Many of the most powerful individuals in history faced this battle, not because they were weak, but because they were destined for greatness. But here is the key. The struggle itself is not what disqualifies a person. It is whether or not they choose to overcome it. The enemy wants the chosen to believe that because they struggle, they are not worthy. But this is a lie. Struggle does not mean failure. It means there is still a fight. The only people who do not struggle are those who have already surrendered to temptation. If there is still resistance, if there is still a battle, it means there is still a chance for victory. And this is what the enemy fears the most. That the chosen will wake up and realize that they do not have to live in bondage. But victory does not come automatically. It requires intentionality. It requires discipline. It requires accountability. The chosen must make a decision that their calling is more important than their craving. They must understand that lust is a thief. It steals time, energy, confidence, and spiritual authority. And once they recognize what is at stake, they will no longer play with temptation. They will fight with the urgency of someone who knows their destiny depends on it. Overcoming this struggle is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about making daily choices to honor God, to set boundaries, and to walk in wisdom. It is about understanding that the battle is not just physical, but spiritual. And it is about believing that true freedom is possible. Not just temporary victory, but permanent deliverance. When the chosen overcome this battle, they become unstoppable. Their minds become clear, their spirits become strong, and their purpose becomes undeniable. They are no longer weighed down by guilt. They are no longer distracted by secret struggles. They are free to walk fully in the power and authority that God has given them. And when this happens, the enemy loses. So let this be a call to rise. Let this be a call to overcome. The chosen were never meant to live in cycles of temptation and regret. They were meant to walk in power, in purity, and in purpose. And today, that journey begins. Ladies and gentlemen, we have uncovered a hidden battle, one that has remained in the shadows for far too long. The struggle with lust is not just about fleeting desires. It is a war for destiny. It is a strategic attack against those who have been called, an attempt to weaken, distract, and ultimately silence those who are meant to lead, to influence, and to transform lives. If the enemy can keep the chosen ones bound in secret battles, he can limit their effectiveness. If he can keep them entangled in cycles of guilt and shame, he can slow their progress and suppress their voice. But the time has come to break free. The time has come to expose the strategies of the adversary and reclaim the power that has been stolen. The time has come for the chosen to rise, not as victims of their desires, but as warriors who have mastered them. Because the truth is, the battle is already won for those who choose to walk in the victory that has been made available. The struggle is real, but so is the power to overcome it. Temptation is strong, but the Spirit of God is stronger. The key to victory is not secrecy, it is exposure. Lust thrives in darkness, but it loses its grip in the light. This is why the chosen must be intentional about accountability, about setting boundaries, about protecting their minds and hearts. They must understand that their calling is too great to be compromised by temporary pleasures. They must realize that every time they choose discipline over desire, they gain strength. Every time they resist temptation, they grow in power. Every time they choose their destiny over their craving, they step into greater levels of authority. But this is not a battle fought by human will alone. It requires divine strength. It requires full dependence on God, a deep relationship with His Spirit, and a daily commitment to walk in holiness. True freedom is not found in trying harder. It is found in surrendering completely. The chosen must learn that their greatest weapon against temptation is intimacy with God. The closer they are to Him, the weaker the pull of sin becomes. The more they seek Him, the less they seek after things that cannot satisfy. So I challenge you today, make the decision to overcome. Do not allow the enemy to rob you of your calling. Do not let secret struggles keep you from walking in your full potential. Do not settle for cycles of temptation and regret when you were meant to walk in freedom. Your destiny is too important. Your purpose is too great. Your influence is too valuable. The world is waiting for the chosen ones to rise, not as captives of their desires, but as conquerors of them. Let today be the day you make the shift. Let today be the day you take control. Let today be the day you walk boldly in the purity, power, and authority that was always meant for you, because the struggle is real, but so is the victory. And that victory belongs to those who choose to walk in it. Thank you.